Everybody knows 6 wins is not the standard for the future going forward, but what a significant milestone for the Nittany Lions. Love to see these guys going bowling.
Penn State is 6-4. Penn State will be 7-4 this time next week.
20 years since the drive. Keith Conlin's here. Blue White Tailgate is next. We welcome everyone to Blue White Tailgate presented by Coors Light. Steve Jones, Trey Bauer, Todd, Sadowski. Bowl time for the Nittany Lions. We put in a request, by the way, for the Bahamas Bowl. Rejected. All right, so I tried. They're not affiliated with the Big Ten.
That's all you can do. All you can do is try.
But still, there's a huge plus and an upside to this because it's a reward for the seniors, and this time it is a reward. And then number 2, it also is going to give them extra practices.
Absolutely. It's kind of that collective sigh of relief. You know, we started out so fast with that 4-0 and then hit the losing streak. Just to reach that number to know, okay, great, we've got a lot more time together, as Coach puts it, with the family. And it's going to good to see these guys together.
And frankly speaking, presented by the Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships, James Franklin on a special moment for a special group.
We love the fact that we were able to find a way to get a W, but it does mean something a little bit more special, the fact that we had 49 seniors that stayed around this program when this university and when this community and when this football program needed them the most. So the fact that we're going to be able to send them out the right way and be able to continue our season and be able to continue to keep our family together for a month or so after the regular season ends is special.
That is special for all of them.
No doubt. And what I like about this victory, and you see Coach Franklin smiling, is because I think this is the signature type of victory that he likes to see and his staff. 47 rushes, imposing their will on the other team. Only 26 passes. It's not that they don't like to throw the ball, but they want to be big and physical up front and fast defensively, and they showed all of that.
And you know what, Trey, you played for Joe Paterno. The seniors were recruited by Joe Paterno and his staff that James Franklin referenced. He believed in great academics. All 9 fifth-year seniors have the degree already. He believed in great football. They're winning. He also believed in loyalty.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is that if you think about this group of seniors, I mean, they were recruited by Joe. They played for Tom Bradley. They played for Bill O'Brien. They're with James Franklin now. I mean, it's unprecedented, literally, at Penn State and probably anywhere else that these kids have been put in this position. And I think it's great for the community as well. You know, State College has been through a lot, and I think it's great.
Exactly. And, you know, again, Bill O'Brien, James Franklin have done very well by these players. They've also done well by him. Bowl game projections. Our crack staff sat down, and they found these bowl games. The Tax Slayer Bowl, the old Gator Bowl, the Pinstripe, obviously the Foster Farms, that's in Santa Clara, Quick Lane, and Heart of Dallas. There's also the Holiday Bowl that's not on that list, and that's important because I think Pinstripe has the 4th selection, guys. I don't know if Penn State falls below that, but the other part is, say they win the last 2. The Holiday Bowl is not out of the realm because they picked 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, if I were going to say something and I would predict, I think Penn State's going to win the next 2 games. So Penn State is probably not going to go to the Pinstripe Bowl, which is where I'd like to see them because I'm from New Jersey and it would be great in Yankee Stadium. But the fact is they're going to be in.
Yeah. One thing's for sure, wherever they go, they want Penn State. I mean, they're going to be in demand. They know the fans want to travel. They know these players. It's a reward. It's going to be a good feeling about any bowl game that they go to, and they want Penn State there.
Akeel Lynch says, great, but Illinois is next.
It's just glad that we finally got one because after what we've been through, it's just like now we're here. Now we're going to try to improve our bowl game and try to get to one of the higher bowls. But that starts with Illinois.
And that will be on Saturday. And that brings us to Upon Further Review with our good friend, Fran Fisher.
With so many of these reviews, I go back to the 1994 season, and I'm at it again. You see, 1994 was the beginning of my play-by-play comeback. Yep, they came right to the rest home and drafted me. It was one of the best Penn State teams ever, and the drive at the end of the Illinois game to grab a win and ultimately an undefeated season was the most memorable one of my radio broadcasting tenure. Here's the story. Trailing 35-31, 6:07 remaining, the Nittany Lions had possession 96 yards from the Illinois goal line. Here's the way that memorable drive went, with Kerry Collins the driver. Carter for 1, swing pass to Milne for 6. Another short pass to Kyle Brady, first down. Pass to Angram for 11, face mask. 15 more and first down at the Penn State 44 with 4:25 left. With the rain and the wind picking up, the pass to Carter, a Carter and Milne run, and a pass to Brady got Penn State inside the Illinois 35. Collins hit Freddie Scott over the middle for 16 to the 19 with 1:43 left. After timeouts by both teams, it was Collins to Ingram for 9. Milne ran for 7.
If they can put it in for the touchdown and win, you just saw a great offensive football team reach down into their gut for 95 yards in the clutch.
Power set, and Milne pounded into the end zone.
Milne, touchdown, Penn State! Yes, sir, never in doubt!
Giving the Nittany Lions the lead and the ultimate 35-31 victory with 57 seconds remaining. And here I am out of breath again. For WHVL's Blue White Tailgate Show, this has been Upon Further Review. I'm Fran Fisher.
And that clinched the Rose Bowl with 2 games to play.
Yeah.
With 2 games to play. It was amazing. You know, I look at that drive, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But remember the Super Bowl drive that Montana put together against the Bengals. What's the similarity between the two? Look at all the stuff underneath what they give you. And that's what they did.
Yep.
Took it. There's no big chunk play in there. There was a penalty.
Yeah, but the fact is that the kids are college kids, they're not professionals.
Yeah.
And they did it.
Yeah, and they did it. Although there are a lot of future professionals on the field that did that
A lot of
as
guys played on Sunday, that's right.
Keith Conlin joins us to talk about that and more as we come up. How many times have we heard this season, got to get the running game going to the tune of 273 yards? They got the running game going.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the Penn State team that we know and love. You know, it's not like where we're struggling to get 100 yards. And we put up 250 on a pretty decent defense. And, you know, there's going to be more to come, I think, this year.
And we bring in Keith Conlin, who would be an expert on plowing the road. And they plowed the road. I mean, and this is, I talked to Miles Diefenbach on Sunday, and I said, you know, what was it like when you and Donovan Smith got together in the huddle? Second series, the first time they were together all season. We looked at each other, and Dono said, like old times.
Yeah, I know we said it last week. I mean, that's the common influence of a guy like Miles in there for the younger guys. The guys having the confidence out there. They can look to a senior out there. I mean, Miles has played in every game. He's seen everything he can do. But going back to what Temple can do, that was my big worry going into last week was their defense. And then just a great job up front by everybody.
Opening drive of the game, they established the tempo, a 16-yard run coming up here by Akeel Lynch. This is on the opening drive.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at, you got a couple different odd-looking blocks in there, and a couple hold, maybe a clip there late in the game, but, you know, guys were staying on their blocks, and that's all you're asked. They weren't missing blocks. They were staying on blocks. We got a pull-and trap here right now. And then what we talked about last week with the wide receivers blocking, and you're going to see it right here on top.
Right. See,
huge right there.
Yes, he's blocking, and then he turns to go get him.
Yep.
That's why it looks like it's clipped.
Yep.
It's not. And that's a run there by him. Now we get to our drive of the week coming up, brought to you by our good friends at Stocker Chevrolet, located on the Benner Pike across from the Nittany Mall, the great, great guys. It's a 2-play drive. Here's the 50-yard run by Bill Belton. Take us through this one.
Again, you're looking at the right side. Mr. Nelson playing right tackle for us is our unsung hero playing offensive line. He seals the end here. And then watch the receiver come in from the top, and he takes in, he stayed high this time. It's not like the Ohio State when they called him the clip. He's coming into the box right now, and he seals off this safety coming down. And, you know, like we said last week, you can't teach speed.
And Belton gets to the edge. It's a 50-yard run for Bill Belton, the second longest of his career after the 92-yarder. And again, the ability to get to the edge, and that's the payoff right there as he takes it to the outside. So that's play number 1 on the drive. So what the heck? Take it home with Akeel Lynch.
Oh, yeah. And look at our boy right here playing left tackle with Donovan Smith. Just takes the defensive end and just he wastes them pretty good here. You can see it real quick on the replay right here from left tackle. Boom, bye-bye, Mr. Defensive End. And hello, how you doing?
Yeah, that's called a pancake.
Yes, it is.
Right there.
Yeah,
and then look at the seal, though. Off. There's one block, but look at the seal as well by Mangiero.
Yes, it is. It's, again, everybody has a hat on the hat, and they're standing on their blocks. They know where they're going, and they're getting it, and they're hanging on their blocks. They're not losing them.
And then the second part of it, you mentioned the speed. Bill Belton. This is Lynch's speed hitting the hole, full speed, but then the stiff arm, the payoff, running back does his part by making it pay off.
Yep.
Exactly, through there. So that's our Stocker Chevrolet Drive of the Week, brought to you by our good friends at Stocker Chevrolet, located on the Better Pike across from the Nittany Mall. So what do the cohesion part, they plug in Miles to go next to Donovan Smith again. Is it that easy to go back to work with somebody again, or does it take a little bit of work?
You need some time. They didn't have him out there starting the whole week. They were practicing other guys at left guard. Right. But Miles is the guy. He's the senior captain. He's going to be there probably starting this week. But there is some cohesion, but you definitely have to have the time together.
Right. Now the next part is our Family Clothesline Offensive Player of the Week with a career high 130 yards, his third career 100-yard rushing game, Akeel Lynch. He gained his 130 yards on 18 carries with plays such as this one right here, bouncing to the outside on that opening drive that we saw earlier, this run. Then, of course, taking it here, one play after another where he breaks tackles, gets himself into the secondary as Lynch had himself a big day all the way around. The touchdown run, of course, was the payoff play for him as he's able to burst through that hole. There's the pancake block we talked about, the stiff arm on top of it, splits two defenders, takes himself into the end zone for the score, and he is our Offensive Player of the Week, courtesy of the Family Clothesline. Now let's get to the quarterback part of it. Now you feel like you can play action off of this, but the pass game did have its struggles.
Yeah, I think that the pass game is struggling because the fact is the offensive line was struggling. And the fact is I think that Christian Hackenberg, although everyone thinks that he's played a lot of football, he really has not played a lot of football. And the fact is I think he was trying to do too much. He doesn't need to do that. Once you have the established running game, it's going to make it much easier for all the guys.
And for Christian Hackenberg, it's a series. If you have time, you can go through your progressions.
Sometimes it's one of those things where, if 1, 2's not open, you try and get to 3, and then you have to sort of move around, and then you kind of lose where your check down is. So I think that's just getting more consistent. I think in practice, that's the biggest thing for us, I think, as an offense, is in practice, practicing like pros, I guess is the best way that I can say it.
There's another part of it, too, and I've talked about this in the baseball realm because, as you guys know, I've done a lot of baseball in my career. And I always talk about a guy gets off to a great start, teams get a book, they adjust. The great ones then adjust back. I think he's in the adjustment phase right now.
Yeah, and you could, people say he's in a sophomore slump. I really don't think he's in a sophomore slump. Like Trey just said, he's 19 years old.
Yeah.
He's 19 years old.
Not 29. No, this is not Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Okay, struggling along. Angelo Mangiero discussed facing the Illinois defense coming up on Saturday.
Teams come out and they match up better with other teams, so I really don't look like that as a player. The only thing I look at is guys on film, see what I'm seeing, not what they've done in the past. But as offensive line, we got to go out and execute the game plan that we've got for that week. And
that's the whole key. You do actually, there are subtle changes in the game plan from week to week that you have to take care of.
Yeah. And I think his name is Angelo, not Angela, but that's just what, I'm not saying, but no, there are certain things that you're going to do, adjust week to week, certainly being 11 games into the season. The fact is that you've got kids that have played a lot of football that are now back on track, and I think that makes a huge difference for all the offensive line.
Yeah, it really does, and now they get to get together and get out there. The confidence level, practice changes when there's some confidence around it, right?
No doubt. We're out there. I'm watching practice on Friday out there, and the guys just seem relaxed out. They just seem like they were having fun again, It was a Friday afternoon walkthrough, and guys were just, it seemed a little bit more lively than I have actually watched practice this year.
Okay, just very quick, yes or no on this. They have the bowl thing now set. Does that relax the team more, that pressure's off?
I guess Trey and I were in different situations back then. If we weren't 10 or 11-0 right now, we'd be pretty upset right now.
Sure.
But for these guys, it's a total reward for what they've gone through. I'm proud of them for what they've accomplished, and the monkey's off their back. There's no more bowl talk. There's no more this or that.
We'll bring Keith back a little bit later to talk about the drive. We'll talk defense next on Blue White Tailgate. In some conferences, great defense is a day where you hold them to 35. At Penn State, they legitimately play great defense.
Absolutely. I mean, they've been playing great defense all year long. The fact that they've been under so much pressure from the offensive line, which is really come along now with Donovan Smith and Miles Diffenbach back. I mean, you can't say enough about this group.
Let's look at the numbers, and the numbers tell some of the story. Number 1 rush defense, number 1 pass defense. When I talked to Bob Shoop Sunday, that was the big exacta to him. 4th in scoring defense, which of course is the ultimate, then total defense 3rd.
Look, that's not Big Ten rankings. That's NCAA rankings for the entire country. They're also 2nd in first downs allowed. And if you've got a 3rd and 7 or more, you can forget about it. I mean, it's amazing. They just do not convert first downs against this defense. They're in the right spot always at the right time.
Great point. And not only that, Grant Haley, a freshman, is our family clothesline Defensive Player of the Week. What a game he played. You watch him. First of all, here it is on a kick return, weaving his way and picking his way through traffic brilliantly on a play like that. And another part, too, is he has 9 special teams tackles this year. That's his first career interception. He brings it back here for a score. What did James Franklin say to him on the sideline? He said, "That's how I want you to run kickoffs back." That's what he told him. But again, Campbell, Allen, Haley, there's your future secondary, and we're watching it before our eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Penn State for years has been known as linebacker U, and we've got a great one at Mike Hull. The Larry Johnson era was the defensive lineman. We've had some great defensive linemen. They play at the next level. You've got guys they're plugging in the defensive secondary and that are lights out right now, and we have a lot of depth there.
And for you, Todd, a chance to be with Mike Hull to talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach Franklin, look, when he came from the SEC, one of the things you'd wonder is, well, what kind of style is he going to bring? He wants to bring speed, and it has already left a big impression on the linebacker, Mike Hull.
I just, told him that was a hell of a play, and you're going to see that from him for years to come. Him and Christian Campbell and Marcus Allen, those guys are, they have all the talent in the world. They're athletic. They can make every play, and they're smart. I just think that the sky's the limit for all those guys.
When you got a guy like Mike Hull who's the glue of a team like this, and you've got a defensive front that is so talented, it's going to let the secondary make incredible plays and take a few chances and use that speed to make impact plays on defense, change the field position, do all the things that a secondary can do for you.
And not only that, they have a big arm they face this week in West Lunt, and Mike Dudek, the outstanding young freshman wide receiver.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, they got burnt once. Jalen Fitzpatrick got behind them. But I don't mind seeing those types of things if they're creating turnovers. So you got a big arm in Illinois. Maybe they're going to get beat once or twice. But you get those turnovers and you turn that into points, especially when the offense is down a little bit. Look what happened. Look at the jolt that they gave the offense from the defensive side.
Big arm, but a quarterback with no mobility. C.J. Alani discussing facing the no huddle.
I say the only challenge is making sure we communicating out there. And because teams that run no huddle, they kind of rely on the defense not being able to communicate. And if we just make sure we communicate every play, we should be all right.
No huddle may have been a big deal in your era because nobody ran it.
Nobody ran the no huddle. I mean, the only time, I shouldn't say no one ever did it. They did it when it was a position where they had to go no huddle. The game was on the line, and that's when they did it. But now it's like you got teams doing it the entire game. So, I mean, the kids are prepared for it.
And Mike Hull always prepared, thus involved in our hit of the week. And take a look at what he does here as he just lays it out. And Walker rolls right toward our camera, and then he delivers, and There goes Colin Thompson. Why did I transfer from Florida? All right. Why did I transfer from Florida? First of all, it's 5 degrees and Mike Hull's killing me.
Yes.
There's a guy right now sitting back saying, you know, there may be a spot. Can I go back? Yeah. All right. Coming up, we will take a look, of course, at the drive, and we'll also take a look at recruiting as Blue White Tailgate continues, presented by
Carter on the wing left and in motion to the right, and they give to Milne. Touchdown, Penn State! Yes, sir! Never in doubt! If they can put it in for the touchdown and win, you just saw a great offensive football team reach down into their gut, go 95 yards in the clutch. They got Tajana Carter on the wing left and in motion to the right, and they give to Milne. Touchdown, Penn State! Yes, sir! Never in doubt!
Welcome back to the Blue White Tailgate, presented by Coors Light. Steve Jones, Keith Conlin in studio, joined by Kyle Brady. Kyle, welcome. Great to have you with us.
Hey, great to be here, guys.
20 years since the drive. Right? Earlier in the show, I referenced what Montana and his group did in the Super Bowl. He's sitting with Harris Barton in the huddle, and he says, hey, look, is that John Candy over there? That's how he starts it. Mike Archie let a ball fly over his head on a punt to put the ball down there. That's actually how you guys started out in the huddle, right?
Oh, yeah. We laugh about that all the time, that Archie let the ball over his head, and we're in the huddle running on the field. He was running off the field, and I remember Bucky Greeley, myself, and Jeff were just yelling at like Archie, like, well, I guess we got to go 96 now. Thanks a lot, little bunny rabbit, you know, just laughing and joking. And there was a timeout, and then at the timeout, I mean, we were literally in the huddle laughing and joking, just like it was like nothing. Like, all right, let's just do this. Let's get it over with. Let's go home.
Kyle, when we sit there and we look back at the drive, one thing we had noticed earlier, everything was, they gave you a lot underneath. How important was that part to take what they gave you at that distance?
Well, I think that's really a smart move for any offense. You look at what you survey the field. If you have a good quarterback like we did at that time, he takes a look and makes his pre-snap read and takes a look at exactly what you just said. What is the defense giving us right now? Based on the play that we have called, where's my most likely option? So, yeah, they were, I think, concerned about plays downfield, especially considering the distance that we had to go. Maybe they thought we'd take a shot downfield with Freddie and Bobby outside, being such threats constantly. And for the most part, they were letting up a lot of shorter routes, almost like a bend but don't break mentality.
And what kind of pressure did they send after you, Keith? I mean, were they doing it in such a way where they were only sending 3, sometimes just 4?
Well, they were a 40 from they went by the 34 like scheme with 4 linebackers, but they actually rushed 4 at all time, and they had Simeon Rice and Kevin Hardy. So they never really had a blitz because they could get pressure with their outside guys. Not really that in that series. I know, Kyle, we could talk about it and laugh, but you know, if you watch the drive, they're calling defensive timeouts because they were gassed. They were absolutely exhausted, and we were in our huddle laughing at them, making fun of them.
Yeah.
I was just going to say it's funny because most oftentimes I think when most of us discuss the drive and that team in general, a lot of us do it on an individual basis with media members of the media, but it's fun to, you do it this way where we're talking about it with another guy who has the shared perspective. And Keith's right on. I mean, from the attitude we had in the huddle when we went on the field, and I think Keith would agree that the fact we had that attitude because of what happened in the preceding 3 quarters. Obviously, the first half not going so well. At the end of the first half, we finally figured it out. Third quarter, basically, we were going on the field, and we knew they couldn't stop us anymore. They had no more answers for what we had, the adjustments we had made, and what we had given them. And there was just such a relaxed, calm attitude in that huddle because of the confidence we had in ourselves and one another. That and you could see it in their eyes, literally. Like when we were coming up to the line of scrimmage on every play, I think there was a resolve early in the drive when they had us pinned so far back that, hey, we can keep these guys here, we can win this game. But as we started marching it down the field little by little, literally you could see it was breaking their spirit. And I mean, it was just a matter of we knew it and they knew it.
That's important because they come in with an awesome defensive reputation. Howard led the league in tackles. Kyle, you had taken care of Rice yourself, really off the edge almost all day. Interesting at the end, though, it was time to play power football at the end. 2 of you talk about the 2 Milne runs near the end, including the one that knocked it in.
Yeah, we're sitting there. We had Jeff Harding's pulling. I think we were on the left side, and Jeff pulled to the right, and I think he blocked about 9 guys on that play itself. And then we had run a trap earlier to get down into that goal line situation. And at one point, our tackles would just, sort of like wedge block onto the middle linebacker, and Dana Howard had Andre Johnson and myself in either ear. And he was just like, he got off the ground and was like, oh, the am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? You know, but you know, and then you're going to send Brian Milne over the top at 270 pounds. You know, just unstoppable. Just was not going to be denied.
Yeah, your recollection, Kyle, as well.
No, I mean, Keith hit the nail on the head. Really, they had some outstanding defensive players. They had speed on the edges. They had toughness in the middle. But as the day went on, and our conditioning was very good, and we had a tremendous amount of talent. I mean, heck of an offensive line, skilled players. Really, there was no weaknesses on that offense. And by the time we got down to that part of the field, I think one thing Franny Ganner did as our offensive coordinator calling the plays was he could see what we were seeing. He could see the fact that we had worn them down up until that point, and that drive in particular had worn them down even further. So even though there's a real nice offensive mix and balance to get us down there, I think he saw that based on the line surge that we were starting to get in the latter stages of that drive, that all he needed to do was stick those big boys up front on him and put a 270-pound fullback up the middle because I don't know if we were first down on the 4-yard line or so, or maybe it was even the 5 or 6, and he just knew that all we had to do was just send that big boy up the middle behind our big hosses, and it was going to be a done deal.
Yeah, that's how you recollect. I want to ask, is Brady technically an honorary offensive lineman?
Did you see what he used to do to people?
Oh, yes, I did.
He's
Every down.
One of the best offensive linemen I think I've ever seen. You know, I mean, he's talking about blocking Simeon Rice, and you can go back to 1993, and that game, they wanted nothing to do with Simeon Rice anywhere near Kyle Brady because of what Kyle had done to Simeon Rice in 1993. Yeah. So that was big Andre Johnson's coming out party for the future NFL first-round draft pick because he did shut down shut down Simeon Rice because they would not let Simeon Rice anywhere near Kyle Brady because of what he was doing to him the year before.
Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed doing this together, Kyle, because, I mean, I think it's interesting we say. It's one thing for me to ask you questions. It's another thing for the two of you to talk about it and relive it together.
Yeah, it is, because, you know, each one of us had our own individual perspectives, but we also, and each one of us will remember different things through the years, you know, different things left their impressions. And I didn't even realize, actually, that Bucky and Keith and Jeff were messing with Archie about that. I know we all talked about it. Man, how do you let that thing go over the head? But I didn't even realize they'd yell those comments out. I might have stayed on the sideline an extra second because I was listening to maybe I can't quite recall right now. Maybe the skill players were around Randy talking about what we were going to do passing game wise. But for whatever reason, I missed that. So you know, even now, 20 years later, I'm still getting more information about that night and that drive and that kind of thing. So that makes it fun.
20 years, great memories. I have less hair. You guys are better looking. All right, Kyle, thanks so much.
No.
Goon, thanks so much. Appreciate it. All right, we'll come back with more as we continue on Blue White Tailgate after this.
Welcome back to the Blue White Tailgate. It's time to talk recruiting. This segment sponsored by Central PA Doc Andor, and Andrew Callista is here with me now. Well, you get to deliver some so-so news. We had a decommit that's making headlines this week.
Yeah, last week it was all high for Penn State recruiting with Tommy Stevens committing this week. Not so good. The most outspoken member of this class for Coach Franklin, Adam McLean. He had Nittany Lion shaved into his head. He was tweeting about Randy Edsall, saying Baltimore, Washington, this is Penn State territory. Not so much. He was taking visits, no problem, but now finally decommitted and announced on his Twitter Monday night he is no longer a member of the Penn State family. But, you know, Coach Franklin, he doesn't have the "we are worst" tweets. You know, a lot of fans are getting upset. The fourth decommitment for Penn State. Where does Penn State go? They got to look for Austrian Robinson, the number 3 ranked player out of the state of New York, defensive end, defensive tackle.
Look, when you talk about these decommits, what you worry about is if they're lightning rods, if they have an effect on other kids that were being recruited as well. I'm not so sure that's going to be the case with McLean.
Yeah, this isn't like the 2006 Penn State class that was very highly rated, and they had that massive signing down north of Baltimore with Chris Bell, Pat Devlin, and all those type of guys. But at the same time, there have been some commitments elsewhere. Matthew Burrell, the offensive tackle, he decided to go out to the Buckeyes, and now there's word out of Allentown area that Saquon Barkley, he's being recruited by Coach Brian Kelly, and also Ohio State getting in on the mix. So fans, they're a little bit worried right now about what's going on, but fans, just relax. It's not like the Titanic or anything's going down. Guys are bailing. I mean, people are jumping off the ship right now. Fans are freaking out online in the message boards. If you need a laugh, get to it, but Todd, it's not the end of the world just yet.
Well, and this is what happens when you got a team who isn't at its peak level. During the season, they start to watch performance. We're 6-4, Penn State, but they've had some offensive deficiencies. Some of these other teams that are on a roll, some of these kids are looking at.
Yeah, and we also have to remember, I'm not saying Coach Franklin does this, but a lot of coaches in Division I football, they push you to commit before you're ready, and kids commit because they want their spot to be held. At the same time, you can't really blame these kids because no coach that's going to the NFL or switching job, they recruit these kids right up until they're switching jobs. So you can't fault these kids at all. It's just the way the game is played now. It's the way the recruiting game's played.
All right, so the rankings look like this. What a surprise. Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, your top 3. Ohio State, the top Big Ten team at number 7. Penn State's at number 13. Look, that's pretty solid. Team's not ranked in the top 25. The recruiting class is well into it.
Yeah, they were ranked all the way up as high as number 4 earlier, but they will get back. And hey, Coach, he likes to play as freshmen, so there's always time to get more.
I like freshmen that come in and make plays. I like freshmen to come in and make plays for us. So, we're going to play guys. We're going to play guys that are ready. We're going to play guys that prepare themselves physically and mentally. But I'm really proud of those guys. They've been playing all year long, and they've been playing well. They really have.
No one's going to outwork them. No one's going to outsell him, and he's always prepared with drinks for his girls at the press conference. Always impressed how he can shift those back and forth.
It's like the game, like find the ball, like up there with all the drinks. And I'm waiting for him to knock one over that doesn't have the cap on and just creates a mess and sets the press conference like up in a ball of laughter.
Hey, the point of it is he's multitasking. He's on it. He's on the recruiting game. His staff's going to be out there. They're going to be working really hard to make sure they stay at the top of the rankings.
Absolutely. He's like a magician out there. Recruits love his message. I will say this, Adam McLean, he did go on Twitter and said, it's one of the worst days of his life and things like that. The rumor mill's out there about why he's leaving. Don't want to speculate, but we'll see where he ends up. That might tell us whether it's an academic issue or something bigger.
We'll find out more down the road. Okay, we don't find out much about injuries, so let's take a look at our Health South injury update. Trevor Williams, maybe expect it back for the secondary, and they looked really good anyway, and it's always a pleasure to see Miles Diffenbach and Donovan Smith together and healthy.
Did you see that Donovan Smith pancake block that we showed for Goon?
Yes.
It looked like he was blocking me out there.
You cannot miss that. You cannot miss that. Yeah, it was nice of you to demonstrate. Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, Andrew Callista, thank you very much for joining us here on the recruiting segment. We'll have better news coming down the road for recruiting as they continue to go back up the rankings. That's it for now on Blue White Tailgate. We'll be right back with more about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Church is a receiver, fakes the Young, option to got a man caught. Looks like Dudek down near the 5-yard line. Haven't seen a whole lot of Devin Church. Riley O'Toole hands it, running right. Young turns the corner 30, 35.
They're wearing their gray Ghost uniforms, the Red Grange gray Ghost uniforms. Tomorrow, it's going to be Senior Day, by the way, out there. Are they getting better under Todd Beckman?
I mean, if you look at the one-loss record, I guess they are getting better. But when you're playing like the St. Mary's School of the Blind and you post a win and they beat one team in Minnesota, I don't think so.
Todd Beckman begs to differ with our esteemed co-host.
I mean, that's why we play the game. Penn State's got a good football team. There's no question about it. Probably one of the elite quarterbacks in the country. Defensively, I would say, just like the last ones we played against, it's Senior Day. These players understand the importance of Senior Day for these seniors. So, we're going to come out first to last and play. We got to play 4 quarters of football and not beat ourselves.
And we'll get to that in a second. They're the one Big Ten school that physically came on campus, and they sent 6 people in here back in 2012. And that's something a lot of people have not forgotten.
I haven't forgotten it, and I don't think anybody in State College has forgotten it. The fact is that, he's saying it's about Senior Day. Well, he wanted our seniors to be part of his senior class. It's total nonsense, and I haven't forgotten about it. Nobody else has.
All right, so now let's get to his current team. He was able to get a transfer from Oklahoma State named Wes Lund to play at quarterback. To his credit, got to give the kid a lot of guts. Broken fibula has come back. Big-time arm.
Well, and toughness, as you mentioned, coming back from those injuries, and those things, they go to your teammates. They understand this guy's tough. He wants to play. You know, you mentioned the senior day for Illinois. It's also kind of judgment day for Coach Beckman, and that might be riding on Lunt's arm, because if they're going to do anything, they're going to have to do it through the air against Penn State, because we all know nobody's running against this defense.
And he doesn't move. This is not a, you know, Riley O'Toole, the backup, will move. Aaron Bailey will definitely move. He's more of a runner than a thrower. This guy won't move, though.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is, when you have a guy who's kind of be a statue in the pocket, it creates all kinds of opportunities for defense, and he's playing the best defense they're going to play the whole year this week, and he's going to have problems, I think.
Outstanding freshman wideout, and Mike Dudek, who has stepped up for Lunt and this offense the way he's played.
Well, we certainly can relate to seeing freshmen get the job done for Penn State, right? And that's, you know, he steps right in there, and it's nice to have that experienced quarterback. Anytime you got a freshman wide receiver, you see them succeeding mainly because they have a good quarterback that they can throw to. And if they've already worked that connection through 10 games, they got a reliable target out there on the outside.
And then I saved Geronimo Allison for you.
I don't understand why people call their kids Geronimo. We have Xander a couple weeks ago, Geronimo. What about Paul? What about Mike? What about George? Geronimo, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
Once again, he does not reflect the views of the entire station staff. The running game, Ferguson and Young, it's the same guys, but they've had offensive line problems up front. Karras is out for the year. The right tackle, Saboga, may not be able to play in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is that, you know, they're very efficient throwing the ball, but the running game, they do have a couple good running backs, and a good running game always sets up a decent passing game.
And not only that, the good receivers out of the backfield, that should be pointed out. The defense, though, as you can see here, they have struggled throughout the course of the year. That's in the conference, Todd, and we'd like to point out exactly how many teams there are in the conference.
Yes, there would be 14 teams in the conference, and they ranked 14th. We saw the graphic earlier with Penn State. Those were NCAA rankings that had #1 numbers next to them. They're number 14, and as our astute producer John Stroh pointed out to me, Penn State will have faced the 12th, 13th, and the 14th ranked defenses in the Big Ten. They didn't do a whole lot against Maryland and Indiana, so it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. But this sets up as a really good matchup because they're not real strong up front, and we're just coming off a good rushing game. I would think they're just going to continue to pound on that defensive line.
Good middle linebacker in T.J. Neal, who was highly recruited. That allowed them to take Mason Monheim, who had been in the middle, to move him to the outside, and also Ernest Thomas moving from safety to the outside. They're playmakers.
Yeah, that's right. And the fact is, I mean, for you to move from inside linebacker to outside linebacker is a gigantic move. I mean, the fact is it's much more difficult to play on the outside because you've got, you're playing in space, and the fact is, you know, he's their leading tackler, and he's a good player.
Not only that, though, but you look at the safeties. The safeties, by the way, have combined for 178 tackles in 10 games. What does that mean, Trey?
That means that your defensive line is horrific. It means that they're not keeping the guys off of them. The fact is that the linebackers should always be the leading tacklers. They are in this case, but for the safeties to have almost 200 tackles, that means it's unbelievable. The fact is how poor they are up front.
Yeah, Taylor Barton, by the way, would be 88 safeties. D'Angelo Bentley is not only a good corner, I think, really good in the return game.
Well, and, you know, Penn State's punt return coverage has actually really stepped up their game.
Yes.
They're only allowing 3 yards per return, and the guys are getting down the field, and this is going to be a good challenge for them. But it's a good matchup to see where we're at because they have a good return game.
No question about that. Well, we are now headed to the infamous G block. And in the G block, we get to the good, the bad.
I'm always bad.
This time you get ugly and funny.
Yeah, there's something a little additional to it, a little bonus.
Bonus time in the ugly segment coming up next. So we continue with Blue White Tailgate presented by Coors.
Bring a bunch of crab legs and see if you're going to take them.
Still say he scored on that play. All right, I still say he did. You saw the infamous handshake at the end between Bill O'Brien and Tim Beckman. All right, so we get to the good, the bad, and the ugly. I get assigned the good again. And we've always had a saying around here about playing your best football in the month of November, that, you know, teams make that improvement. I think we're seeing Penn State right now starting to play its best football all the way around at just the right time. You get the bad boy.
The bad. How about Wisconsin hanging almost 600 rushing yards on Nebraska? The black shirts. I mean, seriously, you're Bo Pelini. I mean, you should be embarrassed. I mean, they should be calling the pink shirts because you have a bunch of girls, prevent Wisconsin from rushing 600 yards. It's ridiculous.
Do you realize the last 2 times that they played was the championship game, and they had Gordon, Bell, and White all over 100 in that game?
Yeah.
They can't match up with them.
No. Yeah.
408 yards? Yeah. You get ugly.
That could have qualified as ugly, by the way. Nebraska's run defense, the ugly and the outstanding. I'll just go to South Bend. They lost to Northwestern. That's an ugly loss for the Irish. The Northwestern's been very up and down. Here's a team, Notre Dame, that was up against Florida State, all the controversy with the final play. They have just sunk like a stone. They got their 3rd loss. We got a little bonus, though, a little bit of funny that we need to throw your way this week.
You need to stop doing dumb all right? I'm glad I started to bring a bunch of crab legs and see if you was going to take them. Hey, Harry, let's get some. Let's see if he's still, Harry. Give me some fruit.
Ooh, I think that qualifies as funny and ugly. Jameis Winston. Ooh, Kevin Hart just bebopping and scatting all over Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston was laughing as much at Kevin Hart's joke as Tiger Woods was at Dan Jenkins. Yeah. All right, so let's get to the college football playoff. As expected, with a win over Mississippi State, Alabama's jumped to the #1 spot. Mississippi State only fell to 4. Key is TCU's 5, and right now Ohio State's 6. So it's 4 in, last 2 out.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is that I mean, although I've said this many times, I hate Ohio State, I'd love to see them get in the top 4.
They will. I think they will. They keep winning. They win the Big Ten championship. They're not going to keep the Big Ten champ out of this.
Yeah.
Mississippi State has Ole Miss next week, Egg Bowl. Before then, Ole Miss has to go to Fayetteville. They get Arkansas.
Ole Miss, they're at 8. They can get themselves a pretty major bowl game. They're still having a special year, even though they haven't been talked about a lot. I like Ole Miss in that one.
Minnesota's at Nebraska.
Minnesota at Nebraska, I really don't care, but I think Minnesota may rush for 1,000 yards against the pink shirts.
All right, USC at UCLA. USC gets played in the Rose Bowl, but it's against UCLA.
Well, it's a great rivalry, and I heard some people talking about it. It's great everywhere except in L.A. They don't really even care too much about about it out there. What a great rivalry between their 2 established traditional programs, and they're going to go watch it and then go get a bite to eat.
BC at Florida State, and you feel?
BC at Florida State, don't really care. Would love to see BC upset them, but I think they get waxed by 25.
Right. BC will run the ball in that game. Our keys to the game, you get to go first.
I think our keys to the game is we need to shut down that passing game. They throw the ball all over the place. The guy's very efficient. We need to get pressure on him, and we need to contain them.
For me, keys to the game will deal with giveaway, takeaway as part of this. Penn State fell behind -3 against Temple, struggled. Then all of a sudden, +5, ran away with it. That's the key in this game, and put the level of doubt into Illinois early in this game that this is not your day, despite the fact that it's senior day.
Playing on that, Steve, you said something earlier that Illinois has trailed in the 4th quarter all year long.
Every game.
Every single game. So the key is to get them down and keep them there. Get them down and keep them there. Don't wait till the second half. It was a wonderful second half. Enjoyed it against Temple. Let's see a little bit more of that in the first half coming up.
It's interesting. I mean, I said I felt they were playing their best football in November. Do you feel like you're starting to see signs of that?
I think they are playing much better. I think that they have a lot of confidence. And getting Miles and Donovan Smith back, I think, is a huge thing for them.
Yeah, it's very big at this time of the year, no question. Well, enjoy the game. Illinois noon kickoff Saturday at Memorial Stadium in Champaign. We will be back on next week with our annual Thanksgiving show. Trey, in fact, has promised to bring in a 25-pound butterball that we're about to... No? Okay, so I'm a little disappointed now. We'll talk to you next week on Blue White Tailgate, presented by Coors Light.